Talked a little bit on the teleconference about emotion and trying to keep the things in check. And I kind of thought about the basketball game where it kind of got muddy just because everybody was a little bit, I guess, too emotional. How do you rein that in, and how do you translate that?
Well, what you got to tell the guys is today's Monday. We can't play the game today. We got some time to get ready to go play this game. But even the emotions, it's going to be big plays in this game. And how well you can control your emotions, and then how can you overcome those big plays? Because, it's going to be, at the beginning, it will be sky high. Then, about 5 minutes into it, everybody will settle down, and then you go play the football game. And so when you settle down, what team can maintain the consistency to go play the football game now? Because it's a rival game, so you expect emotion. You expect everybody jumping up. It's our first home game in a new stadium with a big-time sellout, so our players will be jacked. Now, once we overcome all the atmosphere and just now, let's calm down, guys, and go play it. But it's going to be critical for us, just maintaining, and then continue and getting that consistency going.
Ideally, what would you like the identity of the team to be? You said if you find an identity, if you could pick that out for them, what would you want it to be?
A very aggressive football team, and a team that is aggressive on offense, aggressive on defense, aggressive in the kicking game. We have talked about that, and we have some ways to go to get that done, but eventually we will get there. But you just want them an aggressive team, the team that when it walks out there, we know we're going to just go play this game. We're going to be very aggressive, and we're going to go attack people.
The other day you said you wasted a practice. How did the team respond after that? Did they get better?
What we did was we came back, it was Wednesday, I want to say we wasted a practice, then we came back on Friday and did the same practice again. So then they had a chance to, and I told them, I said, we're going to go back and do the same practice, we're going to scrimmage, we're going to do this. And they came back and they bounced back and they did a good job.
Charlie, you've seen championship football teams. Where does this team stack up right now for you? How far is this team going to have to go?
When I look at this football team, I look at South Carolina, our first year South Carolina in '99. We didn't win a football game, and we were a bad football team. But then, as the season went, we kind of got better each game. And then the next 2 years, we go and win the Outback Bowl. But what this football team, it's just leadership is missing. And once you get some leadership into this program, then guys understand. And plus, you have a whole new coaching staff, so guys they really don't know what to expect. Even with practice, they didn't know it was going to be like that. They're just like, oh, coach, I never thought we would practice like this, or practice so hard. But once they get to know their coaches, and then the coaches get to know the players better, then the program will be able to take off.
Talk about emotions from a personal standpoint. How are you feeling your first game as a head coach and so forth? What are your thoughts on your
Well, as a head coach, it's my first game as a head coach, but I've had a chance to coach in some really good programs and some big-time games. So it's just a matter of just settling down and watching the players go play. Because even at the end of it, the players still have to go play the game, and just making sure we can keep them settled and keep them locked in.
Are you nervous at all or anything? I mean, you calm?
You just got to be calm with the storm.
Charlie, you talked about wanting these guys that they need confidence. I mean, Joker said a couple weeks ago that he tells his players that they're better than they are, so that to try to build that up in them. I mean, how do you try to instill, confidence in your players when you're trying to find that identity?
Well, where Kentucky has an advantage, they've been to 4 straight bowl games, and they haven't endured 3 straight losing seasons. So what these players have heard is you're not very good, you can't do this, you can't do this. And it does. It's a confidence thing with them right now, because we have nothing to show for it, whereas they do have something to show for it. And once we get it going, and once we start winning a few games, and that confidence, it comes like, there's not a more confident guy on this football team right now than Josh Bellamy. He's one of those guys that has a lot of confidence about him. And he's not cocky, he's confident. He's confident in his ability. And that's why I said that receiver position has really taken off because of his attitude and the way he carries himself.
What is it about Powell? You say he's the face of the program, but he seems kind of a reluctant guy to have that role. So what do you mean by that?
Well, when I think about a guy who's the face of a program, a guy who's had to overcome so much, and I just think about his childhood and what he's been through, and then what I did was the seniors sit in these first 2 rows, and I had the seniors to stand up And I said, I don't want you to talk about you as an All-American. I won't hear no football. I just want you to talk about your life so that everybody in this room can hear it. And the reason why I did that is that guys would understand, like you might say, hey, I'm no different than you, or I grew up just like you. But no one really knows that because they don't open up. And, you know, as men, it's hard for guys to open up. So all those young guys, you know, as a freshman, maybe sitting back there and say, hey, you know what, Bilal, I grew up just like you, but I didn't know you, so I couldn't walk up to you and talk to you about that. And the thing about it, he was just so sincere when he spoke. I mean, he just said, you know, he said, guys, I'm just going to be honest with you. This is who I am. This is where I grew up. This is what I'm all about. And then to watch him change and become the person he is right now, you know, I sit over here and I was like, wow. I mean, it's unbelievable. For him to even stand up and say what he said, and he didn't hide anything. And then with his story, then I followed him with Justin Burke, because here comes Burke, a two-parent family, Lexington Catholic, had everything. And that's what Burke said. You know, he did. He stood up and he says, I didn't have his life. I didn't have that childhood. I had two great parents. They gave me everything I wanted. I had everything I wanted, guys. But I didn't grow up like that. But it's good that you hear those stories, so that then the other group of guys can hear that, and then they can appreciate it. And then they can go talk to Bilal, they can go talk to Burke, they can go talk to Wetter, Tom Check, Brandon Heath, because they all have, even though we may look a little different, but some of us may have traveled down that same road. And that's what I try to get guys to understand. And that's why he's like, he's a special young man. Doesn't say anything, he just works. Says nothing, he just works. And I can remember when I took the job, I called him in the office and I recruited him out of high school. And I watched Lakeland High School play, he was at Lake Gibson. And Bilal Powell was the only good player on that team. But Lakeland High School had 7. Florida signed 7 players off of that high school team. In 1 year, 7. The 2 Pouncies, Ahmad Black, Brown, but there's 7 guys taken off of that team. So, but Bilal, he had like 230 yards. If they had given him the ball at the game to do a pass, if they had given him the ball, he would have won a game by himself. They couldn't tackle him. And I called Ahmad Black and I said, you're very glad they didn't get the ball to Bilal Powell, because y'all would have lost that football game. Y'all would have won 2 state, because Lakeland with 3 straight years, they did not lose a football game, 3 straight years. And they would have lost that game that night. And I said to him when I came here, I said, I can remember you playing in that game and how well you played, and you're not playing that way right now. And I need to see that Bilal Powell I saw that night. And this spring, he just ran through our guys. He couldn't tackle him. And I said, right there, you're showing me the type of back you need to be.
What do you attribute that to?
He had it within him, and just confidence, just getting it. Come on, Bilal, because he doesn't say anything. He's so quiet. He won't say 2 or 3 words. And you try to get him to talk, and that's why I said, I'm going to make you the face of our program. And I'm going to make you talk, because you're going to have to go speak. They're going to ask you who you are.
Charlie, do you see any similarities between Hartline and Froman in terms of just, I mean, they're kind of about the same size, they do sort of the same things, they've had to fight. Hartline's had to spend 3 years winning that job, and Adam had to win it last year, had to win it again this year. Are there any similarities between the two?
Well, you look at 2 senior quarterbacks. Hartline's been in that program, though. Fro was a junior college guy. Hartline has been in that program. Both of them had an injury last year. And they're kind of similar. You have 2 senior quarterbacks that are going to walk into this stadium as starters.
What have you, I mean, you know, you didn't speak after you named Adam the starter last week. I'm just, from your point of view, what was it about him that sort of, you know, made him the guy going into this game?
Just the way he led the camp, the way he operated the offense during camp. And we even look back at spring ball, just how well he had played in spring practice. And so you go into fall camp and you sit there and say, okay, we have to get us a quarterback. Somebody really needs to step up. And Froman has a presence about him. He has a leadership quality about him. And guys, he would be the one who got the guys together. And I said, you know, we need to go with someone who has that presence that Froman has.
Can you talk about your offense a little bit, and how, for the people who haven't seen it, you understand it's more wide open, and how Froman can possibly thrive in that?
Well, if you look at our offense, you know, people talk about spread or whatever, but it comes down to, can we run the football? And are we going to be able to run the football with our offense? Because we have 2 outstanding running backs, and you don't want to put the game in the quarterback's hand. You know, that position is a position that gets a lot of praise, and when it goes bad, it gets a lot of criticism. And what you want Froman to do in that position, just operate our offense. And we have enough weapons in our offense. The nucleus is offensive line, and you just need to let Bilal Powell and Vic Anderson get behind those guys and see if we can move people out of the way. And it's a game of toughness, and if you can run the football against someone, then you're just saying, hey, we're tougher than you, and let's see if we can go run the football, and just not ask him to go out. And and that's why it's so critical for us to play well on defense, because you don't want to get down and just turn into a game where we had to play catch up, and then you get to play wide open on defense, and then that's when the sacks come, that's when the interceptions come, because you're playing behind, nowadays you're playing behind the chains and playing behind what you score. So we just need to make sure we stay in the ball game.
Charlie, when you and Joker were at South Carolina, did y'all ever kind of just talk about, being head coaches one day and maybe even serving on each other's staff if somebody got the opportunity before the other one did?
We had talked about that, just knowing which one would be the head coach first. And we had said, whoever gets it, if you're available, you can come and work for me. And we've traveled different roads. And Joker, he's earned his and I've earned mine. But, the amazing thing now is that we both have a chance. And we play each other for the first one, which is special.
This is a little bit off, but not too much. Kentucky trying to jump to that next level in the SEC, you come from there. What do you think their chances are of making that jump? The challenge, how hard is that challenge to jump to the East?
Well, the problem they have there in the East, so you got to go Florida, Georgia, Tennessee right up. And then you look at that west side, you go Auburn, Alabama, LSU. So it's a tough conference. But what they've done in the last 4 years, they've been able to take a step each year, and it's so hard because you have to maintain consistency in that league, and then that's a really strong league. That's what I tell Joker. I get to go play in the Big East. Not that I don't respect the Big East, but I'm not looking, each week there's a Florida coming at me, there's a Alabama coming at me, there's a Georgia coming at me, where that's what they have to deal with.
Charlie,
you had much contact with Joker through the summer in the fall camp?
We spoke during the summer, but we haven't spoken all during fall camp.
No texting back and forth or anything?
No, we haven't texted. We probably text after this game.
Charlie, you come from a school where, Florida will play Florida State at the end of the year. South Carolina will play Clemson at the end of the year. I mean, this game is the first game off. In a perfect world for you, I mean, would you prefer this game to be later in the season, or is this sort of, obviously you came in the situation as it is now, but what would be your preference if given one?
Well, you had to play the game. When I was at Florida, we played Miami in the beginning. When they played Miami, then Florida State was in the end. Then we added another conference game. We dropped Miami. Then they got mad because we dropped Miami because Miami wanted to play us. But I don't know if it really. What happens, the build-up is so big because you start hearing it from January all the way till, hey, you got to beat Kentucky. You got to beat Kentucky. That's all you hear from January on. But if it's at the end of the season, you wouldn't hear it because you'll be preparing for someone else. But it doesn't matter because we're going to have to play them sooner or later.
I think one of the scrimmages seemed like Vic didn't get a lot of carries. They get banged up. How is his health? Is Vic completely healthy?
Vic is completely healthy.
You talked about needing more leadership. Is that something you talk individually to guys about, or do you hope it just kind of emerges from certain guys?
What I have is I have a leadership council, and I have a group of 12 guys right now. There's going to be more guys added as the season goes on, and you watch guys develop. But it's something that you have to talk to guys about. Because what is tough is when you've lost for 3 straight years, it's hard for a guy to really stand up and say, let's go. So as a coaching staff, you had to lead in the beginning, and then you hope that someone